Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech protected.
For 6,000 years,
humans have cracked the whip to get horses to do what they want,
but never really learned
how to communicate until now.
We've cracked the horse-speak code.
This means we can communicate with them in their language
instead of expecting them to understand ours.
Welcome to Cracking the Horse-Speak Code. We welcome you to take the journey with us
as we explore the horse's language, mind, and heart. Welcome to Cracking the Horse-Speak Code. I'm Laura Wilsey here with creator and founder of Horse-Speak, Sharon Wilsey. And today we're so excited to have you with us because we're going to explore how communication with horses can be the answer even if a situation feels a little bit out of control.
Right, and that's a little bit surprising because normally, when we think of a situation where the horses have gotten upset, they've gone what we call to a red zone, you would think, you know, get the whip, get the rope, and sometimes, sure, those things are needed. What we discovered and what happened to happen, and we caught on film,
good thing for cell phones,
was that these three horses got out of control. I had not met them. I had never worked with them. It was the beginning of a clinic, so we were not expecting this to happen. The horses in question do therapy. They're very quiet. They're very calm.
They live together.
They live together.
They've been in this enclosure
all the time, so no one was expecting this. But what happened is that one of the lead horses had injured himself that morning in his mouth, and nobody knew it yet. So he was actually reacting to being uncomfortable and feeling like, I got to get out of here. So the container of communication is where horse-speak really makes the difference. And I certainly have, you know, a background in horsemanship and horse training and all that stuff, and know when to use a whip and when to use a rope and how to use those things. But what was really beautiful about this situation was that it was such an example because I didn't have a whip or a rope, so I just had me. That's the thing we like to say about horse-speak. I can do this, but you can do this. Like anybody can do this.
Absolutely.
Because if you have yourself, you have your own body, which means you can do body language. And that's what this is all about. Using your body language on purpose to do the things that you need to do.
Yeah. And with this, you know, you did not drive these horses forward.
Right. Right.
Even though some other methods do drive horses when they start running, make them run a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But with this kind of, the way they were set up in this enclosure was that it was just a mock enclosure, so they could have pushed right through this fence line. And so for the safety of everybody, you were like, okay, how about you focus on me? Right. And that was really what happened throughout this video. So
Exactly.
Let's get it rolling.
All right. So we'll see here in the very beginning, the three horses are there. Stop right there for a second. And what happened there is that the brown horse told the black horse, no, we can't go say hi to people yet. I need to move you out of here. Because the horses already knew that the one in question was actually having a problem. And that's the horse in the back, which we haven't seen yet. He has a white blaze. And he's the protector of the group. They have different roles in the herd. And the bay horse here is the role of the mentor. And so what he's trying to do, he's a mentor, he's a map maker, and he's trying to create a soothing, a calming in the group. So he takes the middle of the herd horse, which is the black horse. We call them the peanut butter and jellies. They just want to stick to everybody else. And he's like, no, we need to get out of here because that guy, he doesn't feel good. And I didn't know it yet. Mm-hmm. Nobody else knew it yet. So let's see what happens. So he says, we got to move ahead here. I'm going to take you, and we're going to go all the way down the other end and give that other guy with the stripes some space. And so I'm just talking to the crowd about the fact I noticed that it happened. And I thought to myself, how interesting that the brown horse didn't want that little black horse to come and say hi to me. Now, the horse with the blaze is greeting some of the people, and then he does come. You can see him licking already, and he's greeting me. And one might say, oh, well, he's licking and chewing, and that's true, except when he got here, look at his eye. You can see there's a little bit of a lifted eyelid over, we call that a tented eye. And they'll do that when they're worried or concerned or when they're uncomfortable. So I had, whoops, it didn't transfer. Okay, so I had noticed that he had that little bit of a tented eye and that he was licking a lot. And I wasn't sure what that licking was about, because to me, it wasn't the normal licking and chewing. It actually seemed like he was doing something with his mouth, which turned out later to be true. So at this point, he starts to gather his herd. And he goes right for the peanut butter and jelly, says, no, we're not going back down there. And he starts driving him forward. Now, that's what a protector will do. They'll say, you go ahead. I've got your back, though, is the message. So when he starts doing this, which is a little bit more of a bully attitude, the bay horse pulls him in and says, hey, what are you talking about? And so he says, I'm talking about we got to go. And he starts pushing the bay horse. Get me out of here, get me out of here, get me out of here. So I have to step in, stop there. So that was an important moment where I noticed that, this protector horse has started pushing that map maker into the fence. Now, the map maker didn't kick, he didn't defend himself, he didn't fight back. So I was like, something's really going on where the horse with the blaze wants out in a bad way, and I'm not sure why. So what I want to be able to do at this point is not just step in and say, stop what you're doing. I want to step in as a herd mate mentality. So I want to be the new mentor. I want to step in and say, let me soothe this. Let me calm this down. I can offer protection messages. I can offer direction messages. And all I have is myself. So let's see what happens. So at this point, I match steps with them. I stay in the same area of space that they're in. And there I caught, stop for a second. When my hand went really high, I caught the attention of the bay horse. So at that moment, I said, hey, I'm here. I got his eye on the palm of my hand. Now, we don't have long heads and necks. So if we want to simulate the way that they go into what we call an X posture, when they lift their head and neck really high, we have to lift our hand. You lift your arm and your hand, and you do it in just a certain way, and the horses will say, I recognize that. So when that bay horse caught my hand with his eye, he went, oh, that means something. So let's watch. So the bay horse said, all right, I'm going to come towards you, and I'm going to walk. But at this point, the stripe stopped for a second. The blaze horse had already went and got that little black horse again and was pushing him around some more. So as I'm saying something to the bay, like, yes, come in, you can be safe here with me. But by then the blaze had already gotten the little black horse and was like, you keep moving. And the little black horse is going, where do I go? Because I don't know why you're pushing me. So then I said to the little black horse, you can come here too. But now the blaze is really adamant about, I don't want to come in. I don't want them to come in. I want to go home. So we'll see what happens next. So now I put my palm towards the bay and I say, you come here, and he calms right down. Put my hand high for the little black horse. You go there with him. I'll try to. And he gets behind me. And there I say, Blaze, you come here. And he does. Stop right there. Good. So at that moment, I used the gesture of beckoning. And I said, you can come here. So this is not training. And that's where this stuff can look so similar, because good trainers are intrinsically doing some horse speak. They can't help themselves, because when a trainer has really spent a lot of time with horses, what's going to happen is the body language, it's natural, it's in your brain. We already memorize it by the time we're 3 years old. We have all these intrinsic body language gestures. And because we're both mammals, humans and horses are both mammals, what happens is at a certain point, we start to get each other. Like if you live with a dog or a cat, you start to get them.
Absolutely. And so since we don't live with our horses, unfortunately, in
our living
house,
room,
I
right?
mean, that would be great. Actually, Arnold Schwarzenegger does. You can check him out on YouTube. He has his little mini, and his donkey.
Yep.
They come to the dinner table, but we don't have that. So it's just really neat with horse speak, because no matter what your experience is with horses, whether it's 5 minutes or 50 years, we can look at something like this, for example, or you and your horse, and be like, hey, this is the button you actually were activating.
Right.
And it's just bringing all this subconscious,
Maybe you want to share what buttons are a little bit.
intrinsic messages to your consciousness. So then you can practice like Sharon, of like, she knew exactly the button, which is an activation point on the horse. It's not like push this button and the horse will do a thing.
Right.
They're communication centers between horse on horse.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're activating, as you could see during this video, the horses were either driving each other with the hip, or they were moving their faces away at the cheek. So,
or they were lined up
girth on
along
girth.
girth on girth along the side, or even shoulder to shoulder. So when you know where all the buttons are, you know which button you need to talk to create the movement that you're trying to create. But also, those buttons have mental and emotional connotations. So I knew which button to say, come here, you're safe, because they didn't feel safe. Come here, calm down, because you can relax with me. I'll make sure that you get your needs met. So that's what a mentor horse would do. It's what the bay horse tried to do in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't successful because the other horse, the Blaze, needed to get out because he needed attention. So at this point here, let's go back to what's happening. The bay and the black horse just stay still. They go to the side. They make what's called a safety space for themselves, and I separate them with my hands. So I use both palms to say, you are not going to go and bother them anymore. And I come in here, stop right there. So at this moment, I put my hand high in the air, and I said, may I touch you? And when I touch the bridge of his nose, that is a very, very, very sensitive spot on their body. And when I touched him, it's like, if I could see your hand for a second, it's like as light as a feather. If you can't do it light as a feather like this, then don't even try to do it, because that's so sensitive, some horses will just go, no.
And a lot of times when we do go to grab something, we put our thumb into it.
Right, we kind of grip.
And so being mindful of touching with the pad here on your hand versus going to the grip is going to really change how your horse does react to being touched on the bridge of the nose, or even on the follow me button, which is at the behind, basically where the halter sits.
Right, basically the two places where the halter sits
are the most sensitive
are
parts
the most
on the
sensitive
horse.
buttons on the horse for mental and emotional reasons. So when I touch the bridge of his nose, what I'm saying is, you can relax down with me, and then I'm doing this little wiggle, this little side-to-side wiggle. We call it rocking the baby, because when you create this little rocking motion through their body, it's soothing. And then I ask him to release backwards. So not back up, back away from me, like you're a bad horse, get away from me. I ask him to release backwards, and you can do that through that spot, through that button on the bridge of his nose, which helps him to release his tension.
Yeah, and it's really neat to be able to catch horses when they communicate on that button with each other, because it is a very strong button, horse on horse. So that's why we want to be very careful when we are using that button with them,
And
because we're
ironically-
accessing their whole skeleton.
Exactly. And ironically, it's often the male horses will touch that button a little bit more than the females will. Mares will do it on their babies, but it's often like a stallion to stallion or a male to male, because they go up, they rear, they play. And it's a button that they might touch on another horse when they're like, ooh, you need to calm down.
Simmer down now.
Simmer down.
All right, let's get back to it.
So here I touch what's called the backup button, which is in technically the eye of the elbow. It's the crease in front of the leg, not the chest. Chest is actually where they display pride. So if you touch the chest to ask them to back up, you're also minimizing their pride. And they don't like that so much. But when you touch the crease at the front of the leg, they'll just bend backwards, because there's a lot of nerves there and it feels like they want to. So what I've done here is I've separated him from the other horses again, and I'm pointing at the outside. He was showing concern. As a protector, that makes sense. Protectors want to protect from the outside. There were cars driving by, there were people. And then I asked him, can you back up again, and can you relax backwards? There, stop right there. Perfect. So at this point, he has relaxed backwards, he's dropped his head, he's let go of the tension, because not only did I say, hey, I can step in as a mentor for this group, I also said, I can be a protector for you. Because he was being a protector for them. I needed to be a protector for him, which was what we call blowing away the boogeyman, which there was just cars and people and dogs and things outside. And by doing that, he said, okay, mentally, okay, I can let this go. And then what we did next is we just had people come in and put them in halters because we needed, I'm like, something's not right here. And we did look in his mouth, and it turns out he had chipped a tooth. So that was the answer of why he was acting that way. So in the past, how I would have handled this in the past, how the training mode would have managed it is like, I would have probably made them run more and try to shape the running and make the running do a certain thing that I wanted it to do. But now that I understand how to influence the buttons, how to give the right message at the right time for the personality that I'm looking at, it's so much easier to create a container and say, I got you, you're safe with me. Let me blow away that boogeyman. This is a safe place to be. I'm a safe person to be with. Because then what you get is the horse becomes vulnerable.
And he was the one, the Blaze, that was driving the other horses. We gotta go, boys. I don't know what's going on. There's all these people. There's this lady now in the middle of this. But you had built enough rapport with him in that kind of speed within, this was only a 3-minute and 30-second clip, that he was like, oh, I will come to you.
Yes. And when I say they become vulnerable, the choices, like in the old days, I would think you have to make a horse submissive. But this horse he's a proud horse. He's a protector horse. You can see by his stance and the way he was moving himself. I don't want to take away his dignity, but I do want him to relax and not put on that kind of display around me. I want him to let me be the leader of him. And I could never take that leadership away from him. So by him becoming vulnerable with me, he was able to say, I can let go, I can trust you, which means that he'll follow me, which he did.
Yeah.
And that's the transition. Horses are vulnerable with each other. It's just amazing because they know that they're prey animals. They know, and what is a prey animal?
Flight.
A flight animal. They flee. So getting horses to run is not a problem. They're flight animals. So making them run is not a problem. Getting them to calm down in your presence and feel safe enough to stay still with you, that's doing something.
Absolutely.
And when we realized we could do that, we were like, okay, we need to write a book.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And the book is Horse Speak, the Equine Human Translation Guide. And there's horses in translation. We also have a training DVD called First Conversations, which is fantastic because what we're teaching with Horse Speak, there's the 3 pillars. We have the theory, we have mechanics, and then we also help people develop their empathy or feel. And some of the old time guys out there, the cowboys, you got to get some feel, just, get that feel going and just feel the horse.
But what
and
is
it's like,
feel?
What is feel? How the heck do you do it if you're not, that's where some of the great horsemen folks that are out there right now, men and women, they have this feel.
They do.
They have their body is able to encode and decode
Really
with
fast.
the horse really fast. And if you have played a team sport, you actually have been doing that as well. I used to play basketball, so I'm feeling my teammates out on the court, and you're using your peripheral vision as well, which is highly important when you are working with a horse, as well as learning horse speak, so you can kind of see the whole horse as a communication
Or in
package.
this case, the whole 3 horses.
The whole 3 horses, which is, this is such a great video, Sharon. You did an amazing job to be able to simmer down that high energy so then everyone was safe, horses, humans, so that
Yeah, because that little string
that little string was nothing. Yeah.
It was just pretend.
Yeah.
Just a thought. Stay in here. There's a whole audience on the
good
other
theory.
side.
Yeah. So it's fascinating. Every single time that we work with a horse, it's like the most beautiful thing because we never know what the horse is going to say, for one. What sometimes they want to talk about is their aches and pains. And with the Blaze horse, it was fascinating to actually look in its mouth and see like, oh my goodness, your incisor, your front tooth is broken.
And yeah, bloody.
And so that would cause a lot of pain, not only in his mouth, but then it goes through his whole skeleton.
Right, just like us. And what's amazing is that horses, being prey animals and flight animals, normally hide their aches and pains. So unless they're dead lame or colicking or something's obvious in the moment, their instinct is to not show that stuff because they don't want to become victims to a predator. And they're not thinking this way like, where's the wolf? But that's how nature acts inside of them.
Yeah, they go a bit stoic and be like, yep, I'm fine. No worries here.
And they might not be. So sometimes when we start to remove any of the mental or emotional stress that a horse might have been holding on to, then what happens is they relax in their bodies and they go, oh, you know what? My shoulder hurts. What's great about that is so many times those owners are like, I've had the vet out, I've had this done, I've done that. We can't figure it out. And one horse speak session, the horse says it's right here. Great, because now we can deal with it.
Absolutely. Because horses are so specific in what they're talking about. And they're direct line thinkers, and they don't have a prefrontal cortex like us, so they can't be in stories and fantasies
They
and
can't
what have
think about
you.
tomorrow. And they're not plotting against us, which
No.
is another thing. They're literally in ready to go defensive action all the time. So where a predator plans ahead, right? So like you go hunting with dogs and the hunters and the dogs plan ahead for what they're going to do. You watch wolves hunt or a pack of wild dogs or a pride of lions. They plan ahead for what they're going to do. But what prey animals do is they react a second or two sooner than the predator can. So they see it coming, as there's a leap, and they're counteracting that as quickly as they can. So when you're working with this kind of flight impulse, this kind of flight reflex, I don't want to escalate that. I don't want to, because that's faster than I can respond to. So what I want to do is say, come down to what we call inner zero. When they could drop out of sympathetic nervous system into parasympathetic, rest and repair, that's when you actually have the best qualities of the horse available. They can learn better, they can think better, and the bonding starts to occur. And that's what horses know how to do with each other. So when we look out in a field and we see a whole bunch of horses standing around doing nothing, that's actually effort.
Yes. And when you stand there and watch them and even just mirror their tail swish or their step or what have you, and then think about that they're seeing almost 360 degrees around them. And to think about, oh, the leaves moved weird, or there's a squirrel.
And
or what
there's the
have you.
protectors and the mentors. There's a few others. There's sentries, there's mamas,
There's a
there's
whole-
papas. There's a whole gamut of different personalities. But what they're doing is saying, I've got it, I've got it, I've got it. You're safe, you're safe, you're safe. And so it's constant effort to stay calm. So we've decoded what are the primary messages that horses need in order for us to be that member of the herd of two.
To be their mentor, to be their protector, to be their teacher. And, also have the parenting, like a mothering or fathering instinct.
Nurturing
connection with them.
So you can have the bond.
Yeah, because it's all about now, we can go on and on and on.
Yeah, we could.
And
very easily.
It's all about a relationship. And that's what HorseSpeak helps you have, is a relationship that can go as deep as you want to go with it. And so thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time. The website is SharonWilsey.com. The book is called HorseSpeak. And in 2022, we have the third book coming out, and it's called Essential HorseSpeak, Continuing the Conversations. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.